Hello friends, my name is Lalit Soni and I welcome you all in this new episode of In News series by Drishti IAS. In this video, we'll be talking about the Model Code of Conduct. You know that recently Election Commission of India has announced the dates of general elections. It will be conducted in 7 phases. In that regard, whenever these announcements are made on this very same day, Model Code of Conduct kicks in. So we'll be talking about that what is Model Code of Conduct, what are the enforcement and the legalities behind it, and then we'll be discussing few aspects or few restrictions which are associated with it. So let's start. In today's video, first we will discuss what is the news, and afterwards we will be talking about the Model Code of Conduct, then restrictions imposed by the MCC, then enforcement and the legality of MCC, and then we will be seeing a practice question for your prelims. Okay, so let's start. Before going ahead, I would like to announce you that on the occasion of Holi, Drishti IAS has come up with a discount offer for you, wherein on the IAS GS Foundation course on our app, live and online course, it will be for prelims and mains, and it will be available in English and Hindi mediums. On that particular course, we will be offering you 40% of the discount starting from 21st of March to 24th of March. You can avail the offer. Other than that, when we are talking about other online courses, pendrive courses, test series, books and DLB programs, we will be offering you 50% of the discount on the same dates, that is 21st to 24th of March. To avail the offer, you can click on the link which is given to you in the description. Otherwise also you can, for any query, you can call on 8010440440 or on 87501 and you can download the Drishti Learning app to avail the discount offer. Okay, so let's start with our discussion that is related to Model Code of Conduct. So the news behind it was that Election Commission of India has announced on 16th of March the date and the timeline of the elections. So elections will be conducted in 7 phases across India from April 19 to June 1st, and the results will be announced on June 4th. And MCC comes into effect with the announcement of the election dates, which lays down a list of do's and don'ts for leaders and parties and candidates which ahead of the elections. So basically, Model Code of Conduct is some kind of restrictions which are put by Election Commission of India just after the announcement of the elections. Okay, so here is the schedule. Herein there will be 7 phases across India, and that elections will start on April 19 and they will conclude on June 1st, but the result or the verdict of the election will be announced on June 4th, and at that particular day this Model Code of Conduct will come to cease or come to end. Okay, so what is Model Code of Conduct? So basically this is some kind of restrictions which are put by Election Commission of India on candidates, political parties, even the party which is ruling right now. Okay, so these the objective behind these restriction is that there is no populist measure which has been announced by the government or any kind of political candidate which can influence the nature of the election, or you can say verdict of the election. Okay, so there are certain things which you can do, and there are certain things which you cannot do. That is what Model Code of Conduct says. Okay, when we are talking about this Model Code of Conduct, so initially it started in 1960s from Kerala. So when there was election in Kerala, they have come up with their own Model Code of Conduct. Afterwards in 1970s, okay, in 1974 midterm elections, this proposal was put forward by the Election Commission of India, and then in the elections of 1977 they have come up with the announcement of Model Code of Conduct. Okay, and afterwards it has gone through various changes. In 1980s we can say that they have observed something, that political party which is in ruling or which is in the government, they are using, or you can say misusing the public sector for their own advertisement, etc. And afterwards they have come up with the revised Model Code of Conduct, wherein they have come up with 8 chapters with 1 chapter dedicated to restriction on the government, or you can say restriction on the party who is ruling at that particular point of time, that they cannot misuse or use the public machinery, or you can say state machinery, for their political parties use or their election campaigning. Okay, so this is how Model Code of Conduct came. So let's see. The MCC of ECI is set of guidelines issued to regulate political parties, candidates prior to the elections. Okay, the rules range from issues related to the speech, polling day, polling booth, portfolio, the content of the election manifesto, processions and the general conduct, so that the free and fair elections are conducted. So when we are talking about the legal sanctions, as of now we don't have any legal sanctions, but you know that article 324. Article 324 talks about the Election Commission of India and their powers, okay, to supervise and regulate, to conduct, supervise and regulate the free and fair elections. So in that mandate, you can say that somehow Election Commission of India can derive certain powers, and in that regard, we have this model code of conduct. Now coming to the next thing that is related to the the MCC of ECI is a set of guidelines issued, sorry, this is repetition. So here you can say MCC comes into force from the date of the elections schedule is announced until the date that results are out. So when the announcements are done, when the dates of the elections are announced, at that point of time, that evening, the model code of conduct will kicks in, and after the results of that particular election, when the results are announced, that will go away. Okay, so that is the schedule or the timeline of the model code of conduct. Now we will see certain restrictions which has been imposed. Okay, so when we are talking about this model code of conduct, it has some 8 chapters, or you can say 8 provisions in which they are dealing. That is general conduct, meetings, processions, polling day, polling booths, observers, parties in power, and election manifestos. So basically, as I told you, these parties in power, for their restrictions, they have one chapter dedicated to that. Okay, so these are certain things on which this model code of conduct actually guides their conduct, or what things to do and not to do. Now, party in power should not use official position for campaigning. If they are in their office, let's say if there is a minister, they cannot use their state machinery or the supplies which is given by the state for their official work. They should not use it for the election campaigning. Okay, prohibited from announcing policies and projects influencing voting. So let's say a party is in power, let's say political party A is in power. Okay, and now elections are there, you have announced the elections, there are nearly 1 month left to that. So now this party goes for announcement of a particular scheme. Now that scheme cater to rupees 5,000 incentive per year to poor households. Okay, or you can say, as a matter of fact, any particular criteria they set, and they said that we will be giving you 5,000 rupees per year as an universal basic income, you can say. Now this is a policy which can influence the mind of majority of the voters. Okay, so such policy measures are not allowed. As a matter of fact, any significant policy decisions are not allowed after the election announcements are done. Okay, avoid advertising at public expenses for the electoral advantage. As I told you, on the public exchequer, you cannot go for the advertisement of your own ruling party. Okay, now ministers refrain from combining official visits with the election work. You cannot go for an official visit and then do your election campaigning over there. So that is also one restriction. Prohibited from using official machinery for campaigning. Ruling party cannot use government resources for campaigning. Must provide equal access to public facilities for opposition parties. So there was these incidences when, as I told you, in 1980s there was this all party meeting wherein these reservation has put forward that the ruling party which is in power, they are not giving access to the public spaces. They are going for their own rallies, but they are not giving it to opposition for their rallies. Okay, so here this model code of conduct says that must provide equal access to the public facilities to the opposition as well. Okay, now other restrictions are using public funds for advertisement is prohibited. As I told you, public exchequer cannot be used. No ad hoc appointments. The ruling party or the government cannot go for any kind of ad hoc appointments to influence the voters' nature. Now, criticism based only on the work record is allowed. Okay. Now, the thing is, the criticism on the lines of which can be on the lines of polarization, etc., that is not allowed. No use of caste or communal sentiments to lure the voters. You cannot go, talk about particular caste, community, etc., or a particular sect. You cannot go into temple, mosque, etc., and go for election campaign over there. Okay. Religious places barred from election campaigning. Bribing, intimidating, impersonating voters is prohibited. Election silence enforced 48 hours before the polling to ensure reflection and no campaigning events. So basically 48 hours before the election time, or you can say these all activities are put to hold. You cannot go for any kind of rally, you cannot go for any kind of addressing the public, etc. 48 hours before the elections. Okay, so that is what is called election silence. Okay, now these are certain restrictions we have talked about. Now let's see the enforcement and the legalities. When we are talking about MCC, it lacks statutory backing. There is no legal document, or you can say there is no law which is backing MCC. So there is no statutory backing, but enforced through the moral sanctions by ECI. Now there are certain moral sanctions. If you are going for some kind of violation of Model Code of Conduct, in that regard, Election Commission of India can take a small action against you. Okay, breaching the MCC does not lead to legal actions, but can result into censure from the ECI. ECI can put some kind of restriction on you, okay, and they can ask you for the apology, etc. So if there is a breach by a party leader or something, so that party leader either has to revert from the claims and then give explanation, or they can accept the violation and then go for an apology. Okay, so there were incidents in the last election where Mr. Amit Shah has been debarred from any kind of public rally, etc. Afterwards, he has gone for an apology and then he was reinstated. Okay. Now, ECI issues notices for alleged breaches and require written response from the accused. Okay, so if there is a breach, so you will be required a written response. Response can be either you can accept the violation and then go for an apology. Otherwise, you can go for explaining like why you did that, and if Election Commission of India is satisfied or not, accordingly they will take any action. Okay. So these are certain things which are, you can say, enforcement and the legalities behind Moral Code of Conduct. So this is basically about Moral Code of Conduct. So now come to the practice question for your prelims. Okay. Which article of the Constitution deal with the establishment and the composition of Election Commission of India? Article 324, Article 335, Article 343 and Article 350. You have to attempt this question and answer in the comment box. So in this particular video, we have talked about the Model Code of Conduct, how it originated from Kerala. Kerala was the first state, and then how it came to general elections, and what are the legalities behind it. Does it has a legal sanction or not? Otherwise, we have seen certain restrictions. Overall, you can say that there is no public policy which can be announced after announcement of the elections. You cannot use the public exchequer for your own advertisement. You cannot use state machinery for advertisement. You cannot go for any kind of using any sect, community or a religion for your own election campaigning. You cannot use any kind of religious place for election campaigning, and 48 hours before we will be having an election silence. Okay, so these are certain things which we have talked about in this particular episode. This is the question for your practice. You can attempt this question and answer in the comment box. With that, I would like to take your leave. If you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.